September 28, 2008. Omelek Island, Marshall Islands. A coral atoll, barely 7.9 acres in size, so small it doesn't appear on most maps, sitting roughly 2,500 miles southwest of Hawaii. The nearest city is a plane ride away. Its only current residents are a team of Spacex engineers who have been living and working here for months, sleeping on cots, eating together, watching 3 rockets fail together. Tonight, they have 1 rocket left. Not one left in this quarter's production run, not one left in the budget. 1 rocket left. Ever. If it fails tonight, the company is dead. Legally, financially. Everyone goes home. The man responsible for all of it, a 37-year-old entrepreneur who made his money on the internet and has no formal aerospace training, has just split his last $30 million down the middle. $15 million for this company, $15 million for his electric car company that is also simultaneously on the edge of collapse. The global financial crisis is accelerating around them. Nobody is writing checks for rocket startups right now. Nobody. This is it. Here is what brought them to this moment. Launch 1, March 2006. The rocket got 41 seconds into flight before a fuel line knot, corroded by salt spray from the Pacific, caused a fire in the engine bay. The rocket came back down and landed 250 feet from the launch pad. A satellite built by Air Force Academy cadets who had watched the launch from the United States was destroyed on impact. Launch 2, March 2007. This one was almost there. The rocket climbed 180 miles above Earth, reaching near orbital velocity. Then, the first stage rotated 5 times faster than expected during separation and bumped the second stage as they came apart. Both stages tumbled. Neither reached orbit. Close. Painfully close. Launch 3, August 2008. The cruelest failure of all, because it was the one that should have worked. The new Merlin 1C engine performed perfectly, but at engine cutoff, the thrust took a fraction of a second longer to decay than the software expected. When the second stage fired its separation pyrotechnics, the first stage was still producing residual thrust. The 2 stages collided as they came apart. Both tumbled, both burnt up over the Pacific. Among the payload, a US Air Force satellite, 2 NASA nanosatellites, and the cremated remains of 208 people who had paid Celestis to carry their ashes into orbit. Among them, Gordon Cooper, one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts, the 6th American to go to space, who had specifically asked SpaceX to carry him into orbit. And including James Doohan, the actor who played Scotty in Star Trek, who had made the same request. Both of them burnt up over the Pacific Ocean because of a fraction of a second timing error. Musk told his team they were building the 4th rocket, the last one. He told them they were going to fly. Nobody quit. Nobody went home. The team assembled the 4th Falcon 1 in 6 weeks from available parts. To get it to the island quickly, they chartered a US Air Force C-17 Globemaster military transport. During the flight, when the plane began its descent toward Hawaii, the cabin depressurized faster than the small pressure equalization hole in the rocket's tanks could compensate. The Falcon 1 began to implode right alongside the engineers sitting with it. With the structure collapsing around him, propulsion engineer Zach Dunn crawled headfirst inside the crumpling rocket, manually unscrewed a line, and equalized the pressure by hand, mid-flight, on a military transport aircraft over the Pacific. They landed, They repaired what was left. They transported it to Omelek. They set it on the pad. The only change from the previous failed configuration, a slightly longer delay between first stage engine cutoff and second stage separation. Just enough time for the residual thrust to decay before the stages came apart. The one thing that destroyed Launch 3 corrected. Everything else was the same rocket, the same island, the same Pacific night. At 23:15 UTC on September 28, 2008, Falcon 1 lifted off for the fourth time. The first stage burned, staged cleanly. The delay worked. The second stage ignited, burned to completion. The engine cut out at 9 minutes and 31 seconds. Falcon 1 was in orbit. RATSAT, a 165-kilogram aluminium dummy mass, was circling the Earth between 622 and 643 kilometers altitude, inclination 9.3 degrees, orbital period 97.4 minutes. The first privately funded, privately developed, fully liquid-fueled rocket in human history to reach orbit. Built on a 7.9-acre coral island with the last money the company had by a man with no aerospace degree and a spreadsheet. Engineers who had lived on that island, who had watched 3 rockets fall out of the sky, completely losing their composure at their consoles. Grown adults who are some of the most technically rigorous people on Earth, grabbing each other and screaming. Musk, when asked about that moment, said simply, "Fate liked us that day." 3 months later, NASA awarded Spacex a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. The company that had been days from shutting down was suddenly funded for years. In 2026, SpaceX is preparing the largest IPO in financial history, a valuation between $1.5
and above $2 trillion.
A capital raise of $50 billion, double the previous all-time record. The company that repaired its last rocket by hand on a military transport plane is now launching one rocket approximately every 2 days. It controls more than 50% of all orbital launches on Earth. Its satellite internet service has 10 million paying subscribers across 155 countries. It has caught a 30-story rocket booster from the sky with mechanical arms, something every aerospace expert said was physically impossible. This is Startup Origins, and this is the complete story of how that happened. And it is one of the most extraordinary things any company has ever done.
In August 2001, Elon Musk opened NASA's website to find out when they were planning to send humans to Mars. There was no answer, no timeline, no program. The agency that had put 12 human beings on the moon between 1969 and 1972 had no concrete plan to send people to another planet. Elon Musk was 30 years old. He had recently received his share of the PayPal sale, approximately $180 million, and he was genuinely disturbed by what he found or didn't find on that website. So he came up with a modest solution. Not a crude Mars mission, just a greenhouse. A small greenhouse sent to Mars, growing plants in Martian soil, photographing them, and sending the images back to Earth. He called it Mars Oasis. The images of something alive on Mars would generate public imagination and political will for a real program. All he needed was a rocket. Rockets in 2001 were owned by governments. The cheapest option Musk could find was a refurbished Russian ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile originally built to carry nuclear warheads, now available on what passed for a commercial market. He recruited Jim Cantrell, an aerospace supplies fixer with Russian government connections, and his best friend Adeo Ressi. They flew to Paris first, then to Moscow in October 2001, in search of rockets they could buy. What happened in those meetings is one of the most entertaining stories in the history of technology, and it's almost completely unknown outside aerospace circles. Every meeting began the same way. Russian officials would arrive around 11 in the morning, and individual vodka bottles would appear in front of each person at the table. The toasts came every 2 minutes, to space, to America in space, until at least once everyone at the table had passed out. On a separate trip, the Russian delegation visited Musk in Los Angeles and told him they needed $5,000 cash to continue negotiations on a Saturday. Musk and Ressi borrowed it from the Mondrian Hotel in West Hollywood. The initial Russian proposal was $21 million for 3 missiles. Musk flew back for a second trip in February 2002, this time bringing Mike Griffin, who had worked at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the CIA's venture capital arm, and who would later become the 11th administrator of NASA under President George W. Bush, as a technical advisor. When Musk attempted to close an actual deal, the Russians raised their price, $21 million for each missile, not all 3. They walked out into the Moscow cold, got in a cab, and drove straight to the airport.
On the flight home, Cantrell and Griffin sat a few rows back from Musk. The drink cart came around. They ordered. They clinked glasses. Cantrell later said he always felt particularly good when the wheels lifted off in Moscow, like, my God, I made it. Musk sat in the row ahead of them, not celebrating, typing. Halfway through the flight, he turned around and said, I think we can build this rocket ourselves. He handed them the laptop. They looked at what he had been building while they drank. Tank weights, structural sizing, propulsion calculations, propellant mass fractions, the full architecture of an orbital rocket costed out from raw materials and manufacturing, not from aerospace industry pricing. Cantrell looked at the numbers and said to himself, I'll be damned. That's why he's been borrowing all my books. For months, Musk had been reading Cantrell's aerospace engineering textbooks, rocket propulsion elements, fundamentals of astrodynamics, aerothermodynamics of gas turbine and rocket propulsion. Not to understand the concepts, to calculate the costs. His conclusion: rockets were expensive not because they had to be, but because nobody with the right incentives had ever tried hard enough to make them cheap. The aerospace industry's cost-plus contracts meant that spending more money earned more profit. The incentive was always to spend. Musk intended to change that incentive.
SpaceX was incorporated on March 14, 2002 in El Segundo, California. Musk invested approximately $100 million of his own money, more than half of his PayPal proceeds. The founding team was deliberately chosen for willingness to move at an impossible pace. Tom Mueller, a self-taught propulsion engineer who built rocket engines in his garage as a hobby, became lead engine designer. His team built the Merlin turbopump in 13 months for approximately $1 million. NASA's own analysis later estimated a comparable component would have cost Boeing $100 million and several years of work. SpaceX built it for $1 million in 13 months, 1/100th the cost. Hans Königsmann handled avionics, Chris Thompson handled structures, and in August 2002, Gwynne Shotwell joined as head of sales, walking into boardrooms and asking customers to trust their satellites to a company that had never launched anything.
she was extraordinarily good at it. She eventually became president and COO and is by any assessment one of the most consequential executives in the company's history. Jim Cantrell, who had been on the Moscow trips, joined and quit within a year. The people who stayed, who chose a coral island in the Pacific over a comfortable salary at Boeing, who tolerated the pace, the pressure, and the outright failure, built something that has no precedent in the history of aerospace. The fourth Falcon 1 proved SpaceX could reach orbit. What it didn't yet prove was that the company could do it reliably, affordably, or at a scale that would disrupt the most entrenched industry in the history of American government spending. To understand what SpaceX changed, you need to understand how extraordinary the numbers were before SpaceX changed them. Before SpaceX, the dominant American launch provider was the United Launch Alliance, a joint venture between Boeing and Lockheed Martin that operated as a government-protected duopoly. One Atlas V launch between $300 and $400 million every single time. No competition, no alternative. NASA's own space shuttle averaged approximately $1.5 billion per launch when you divided total program costs by the number of flights. When the shuttle retired in 2011, America had no domestic replacement, zero. The country that had landed 12 people on the moon had no rocket capable of launching its own astronauts. So, from 2011 to 2020, every American astronaut who reached the International Space Station bought a seat on Russia's Soyuz spacecraft for up to $80 million per person, per seat. The nation that won the space race was paying its former rival to carry its astronauts to a space station America had paid for. Now, here is the SpaceX number. NASA's own Office of Inspector General estimated that if SpaceX had developed the Falcon 9 through the traditional NASA cost-plus contracting process, it would have cost approximately $4.5 billion. SpaceX developed it for approximately $450 million, 1/10 the price. Not 10% cheaper, 1/10. That gap was not engineering genius, it was incentive structure. Cost-plus contractors get paid their costs plus a guaranteed margin. Spend more, earn more. There is literally no financial incentive to be efficient. SpaceX operated on fixed-price contracts where every dollar saved went directly to the company. The financial incentive and the engineering objective pointed in the same direction for the first time in the history of American aerospace procurement. The Falcon 9 first launched successfully in June 2010. 9 Merlin engines in the first stage, all designed in-house, meant that if one failed, the rocket could complete its mission on the remaining 8. It was, by design, more redundant than any comparable vehicle. In May 2012, SpaceX's Dragon capsule became the first commercial spacecraft to dock with the International Space Station. A startup had just done something that had previously been the exclusive domain of national space agencies. The established industry's response moved through the predictable stages of dismissal, hostility, and lobbying. Boeing and Lockheed filed protests when SpaceX won military contracts. Congressional representatives raised safety concerns. Lori Garver, NASA's deputy administrator at the time, later said the resistance had nothing to do with safety. It was about protecting an economic model that had made aerospace contractors extraordinarily profitable for decades.
But disrupting launch costs was not the thing that fundamentally broke the aerospace industry open. The thing that broke it open was a rocket landing itself. For 6 decades, rockets were disposable. You built a machine worth hundreds of millions of dollars, used it for 9 minutes, and let it burn up in the atmosphere or crash into the ocean. Every launch required a brand new rocket. Musk compared it to buying a new Boeing 747 for every flight and throwing it away on arrival. The industry's response wasn't that he was wrong, it was that reusability was either physically impossible or economically impractical. The Spacex shuttle had tried it and still cost more per launch than a disposable rocket because of refurbishment costs. SpaceX spent years building toward this. Failed drone ship landings, explosions. In June 2015, an unrelated failure destroyed the rocket entirely. Then, on December 21, 2015, Falcon 9 booster B1003 delivered 11 Orbcomm satellites to orbit, flipped around, reignited its engines, and guided itself back to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Its landing legs deployed, it touched down vertically. An orbital-class rocket the size of a 15-story building had landed itself for the first time in history. The footage was viewed tens of millions of times within days. It looked like science fiction. It was engineering. The industry that had declared it impossible watched it on their phones. The first booster reflight came on March 30th, 2017. The same booster that had launched and landed in April 2016, now flying again. Proof that recovery was not just a stunt, but a repeatable operational capability. What followed compounded relentlessly. By December 2025, the record stood for 33 flights for a single booster. Refurbishment cost of a used booster approximately 10% of building a new one. After 2 flights, every subsequent flight of the same booster was generating near pure margin. By the mid-2020s, 84% of SpaceX's Falcon 9 launches were using reused boosters. By 2024, SpaceX completed 134 orbital launches, more than every other nation and company on Earth combined. As of early 2026, the Falcon 9 family had completed 622 full mission successes out of 625 total launches. The booster fleet had landed successfully 584 times in 597 attempts, the most reliable orbital rocket in the history of spaceflight. And then there was Boeing, which tells you everything you need to know about who won. Boeing received up to $4.2 billion under the same NASA Commercial Crew Program that funded SpaceX's Crew Dragon. In June 2024, Boeing finally launched its Starliner on its first crewed test flight, years behind schedule. Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams went up. Helium leaks, thruster failures. Their planned 8-day mission stretched indefinitely. In August 2024, NASA announced Wilmore and Williams would not return on Starliner. The empty capsule was sent back without them. On March 18, 2025, 9 months after they launched, Wilmore and Williams came home on a SpaceX Crew Dragon. The aerospace monopoly was not weakened, it was gone. If you're enjoying this documentary-style breakdown of an iconic startup story, subscribe to Startup Origins because every episode goes this deep every time. Most people think of SpaceX as a rocket company. The rockets are spectacular. The launches are what go viral. That's what you see. But by 2025, the rockets were not where most of the money was actually coming from.
In 2024, SpaceX generated approximately $13.1 billion in total revenue. Of that, roughly $7.7 billion, 58%, came from Starlink. Not the rockets, the internet service. In 2025, total revenue grew to approximately $15 billion. Of that, approximately $10.4 billion came from Starlink. Nearly 70% of the company's revenue came from a satellite internet subscription service. The company most people think of as a rocket company had quietly become one of the most valuable internet businesses on Earth. Low-orbit satellite internet was not a new idea. In the 1990s, multiple companies tried it. Teledesic, backed by Bill Gates and Craig McCaw, raised nearly $9 billion and never launched a commercial service. Iridium launched 66 satellites and went bankrupt within a year of commencing operations. The problem was always the same. Low-orbit satellites move fast enough that you need enormous numbers of them for continuous coverage. Deploying thousands of satellites had always been prohibitively expensive, unless you owned the cheapest rockets in the world and could build the satellites yourself. That is the entire Starlink advantage, stated simply. SpaceX launches its own satellites at the marginal cost of fuel and operations on already amortized, reused hardware. Every competitor, Amazon's Project Kuiper, OneWeb, or AST Space Mobile, pays third parties to launch at commercial rates. In some cases, they pay SpaceX itself. Every Kuiper satellite launched at commercial rates is indirectly funding the next generation of Starlink satellites. The competitors are partially subsidizing the company they are trying to compete with.
Starlink's public beta launched in October 2020 with approximately 10,000 users. Then, watch the numbers. 1 million subscribers by December 2022, 2.3 million by end of 2023, 4.6 million by end of 2024, 10 million active subscribers by March 2026. 3 consecutive years of precisely doubling. Nasdaq analysts noted publicly that this consistency, not approximately doubling, precisely doubling, suggested SpaceX may be deliberately pacing Starlink's expansion to maintain smooth, predictable revenue growth, which Musk had stated was a condition for a public listing. The constellation operated nearly 9,500 active satellites across 155 countries as of early 2026. The customer mix was far wider than any model had predicted. Maritime, 75,000 vessels, including 300 cruise ships. Aviation, United Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, and others offering free in-flight Wi-Fi using Starlink terminals. Emergency services, remote mining, and the military. Ukrainian forces used Starlink terminals during their conflict with Russia. In a live military environment with active jamming attempts, a low-orbit satellite constellation provided communications resilience that no terrestrial infrastructure could replicate. The US government noticed. Starshield, the government and military version of the network, became a multi-billion-dollar revenue contributor. In April 2025, SpaceX secured a $5.9 billion Pentagon contract for 28 national security launches through 2029. In July 2025, T-Mobile launched direct-to-cell service using Starlink, eliminating mobile dead zones across North America. In March 2025, Starlink signed a deal with Reliance Jio for access to over 1 billion mobile users in India. In late 2024, SpaceX acquired EchoStar's spectrum assets, $17 billion of spectrum, giving Starlink a direct-to-phone capability that could eventually make every mobile device on Earth a potential Starlink customer. That addressable market is measured in billions of people. Musk described the strategic logic in one sentence. Starlink is how we are paying for humanity to get to Mars.
The satellite internet business funds the rocket program. The rocket program reduces the costs of the satellite internet business. Every subscriber funds Starship development. Every Starship flight reduces the cost of the next Starlink satellite batch. The flywheel feeds itself and deepens with every satellite launched. Amazon is building Project Cooper, but it faces a US regulatory deadline to launch 1,600 satellites by July 30, 2026, to maintain its FCC license without its own rockets, relying on ULA and Arianespace at rates that are multiples of SpaceX's internal costs. To compete properly, Amazon would need to build a launch company first. Building a launch company takes, as SpaceX's own history shows, at least a decade of sustained expensive effort with no guarantee of success. The gap is structural, and it is not closing. If Falcon 9 and Starlink are what SpaceX has already built, Starship is the reason the company might be worth more than both of them combined. Starship stands approximately 120 meters tall, roughly a 40-story building. Powered by 33 Raptor engines in the Super Heavy first stage and 6 in the Starship upper stage, 39 total, it generates more thrust at liftoff than any rocket ever built, including the Saturn V that sent Apollo astronauts to the moon. Both stages are designed to be fully reusable. The Super Heavy booster returns to the launch site and is caught by the tower's mechanical arms. The Starship upper stage eventually returns the same way. No ocean recovery, no refurbishment ships. Catch it, refuel it, launch it again. SpaceX's internal cost target for a Starship mission, once operational, approximately $1 million per launch. The current Falcon 9 list price, $67 million. A pre-SpaceX Atlas V, $300 to $400 million. The Space Shuttle era cost per kilogram to orbit was approximately $54,000. SpaceX's Starship target is $10 per kilogram. If achieved, that number doesn't just improve SpaceX's economics, it rewrites the economics of everything that depends on access to space. Starship's development is SpaceX's philosophy at maximum intensity. Build it, launch it, watch what breaks, fix it, launch again, faster than any government program on Earth. Flight 1, April 2023, 40 kilometers, then breaks apart. SpaceX calls it a success. The data from those 40 kilometers was information that no ground test could have provided. Flight 2, November 2023. Both stages separate successfully for the first time. Both are subsequently lost to explosions. More data. Flight 3, March 2024. The upper stage reaches space, survives re-entry, provides the first live footage ever seen of a spacecraft descending through re-entry plasma from cameras on the vehicle itself. No one had seen that before. Nobody. Flight 4, June 2024. Both stages survive. Both complete controlled descents. The full flight profile is now proven viable. Flight 5, October 13th, 2024. The moment. Super Heavy Booster 12 delivered the upper stage toward its suborbital trajectory, then flipped, reignited its engines, and flew back to the Starbase launch site in Boca Chica, Texas. As it descended, it slowed. It performed a precise alignment maneuver. Two mechanical arms on the launch tower, nicknamed Mechazilla, closed around the booster as its engines shut down. A 30-story rocket, returning from the edge of space, caught by two metal arms. On the first attempt, Musk posted on X, "The tower has caught the rocket." Retired Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield called it an enormous step forward in human capability. Rocket Factory Augsburg, a European competitor, publicly congratulated SpaceX and added, with what sounded like genuine alarm, that at SpaceX's current pace, the European space industry had no chance of catching up. Subsequent flights continued the pattern: rapid improvement, occasional upper stage losses, consistent booster catches. By early 2026, 11 test flights completed. The FAA authorized up to 25 Starship launches per year from Boca Chica, Texas. NASA has contracted Starship as the lunar lander for the Artemis program, the first crewed moon landing since 1972. A vehicle that destroyed itself on its first attempt is now being trusted to carry human beings to the lunar surface. That transformation reflects the accumulated data from 11 test flights that could not have been gathered any other way.
April 2026. SpaceX has filed its IPO paperwork with the SEC, confirmed on April 1, 2026 by Bloomberg and CNBC. The public S1 is expected in late April or May, with a June listing on the Nasdaq targeting a valuation of above $2 trillion. The planned capital raise, $75 billion, more than 3 times the size of the largest US IPO in history. Morningstar's March 2026 analysis estimated SpaceX's 2025 revenue at approximately $15 to $16 billion and EBITDA at $7.5 billion. Their 2040 projection, $150 billion in revenue. The driver of those projections is Starlink. Analyst firm Payload Space projected the subscriber base could reach 18.4 million by end of 2026 if the doubling pattern continues, implying Starlink revenue of $22 to $24 billion in a single year. The XAI integration finalized in February 2026 when SpaceX completed its acquisition of Musk's artificial intelligence company in a $1.25 trillion triangular merger, adds a vision of orbital AI data centers, satellites running compute workloads powered by solar energy cooled by the vacuum of space. Whether that vision justifies the premium baked into the valuation is genuinely contested. For context, XAI itself reported a loss of more than $1.4 billion on just $107 million in revenue in its final quarter before being absorbed into SpaceX. The risks are real and should be named honestly. Starship has not yet flown an operational commercial payload. The $10 per kilogram cost target has not been demonstrated in practice. The dual-class share structure planned for the IPO gives Musk outsized voting control, limiting what public shareholders can actually influence. And key person risk, the degree to which this entire company's trajectory depends on one individual simultaneously running Tesla, Neuralink, The Boring Company, and an active political career is significant in a way that is genuinely unusual for any company at this scale. These are not reasons the company is worth nothing. They are reasons the valuation requires conviction about outcomes that have not yet been proven. But here is the thing that does not require conviction. In 2001, a man flew to Moscow to buy used nuclear missiles, got spat on, and was told he was a little boy who didn't have the money. In 2002, on a plane home, he pulled out a spreadsheet and said, "I can build this myself." In 2008, their team repaired their last rocket by hand, a propulsion engineer crawling inside a collapsing structure mid-flight, and launched it from a 7.9-acre coral island with the last money the company had. In 2015, they landed a rocket that every expert said could not be landed. In 2024, they caught a 30-story rocket from the sky. In 2026, they filed for the largest IPO in financial history. Every single step of that trajectory was declared impossible by the people with the most reason to know. Every single step happened anyway. That is the investment thesis, not the financial model, the record.
Every company that does something genuinely new,
prove something about the world that was not previously proven. What did SpaceX prove? First, incentive structures determine outcomes more than resources. Boeing and Lockheed had more money, more engineers, and more experience than SpaceX. SpaceX built better rockets for 1/10 the cost because efficiency was in its financial interest and nobody else's. Change what an organization is optimizing for, and you change what it builds. Every other lesson here follows from that one. Second, failure is data. The Falcon 1 exploded 3 times and nearly killed the company. Those 3 failures made the 4th launch possible. Every Starship that blew up makes the operational vehicle more reliable. In an industry built around 5-year development cycles and billion-dollar overruns, the willingness to fail fast, learn fast, and try again is not a startup cliché. It is a genuine competitive weapon. Third, vertical integration is a moat, not just a cost saving. SpaceX's ability to launch Starlink satellites at internal marginal cost, while every competitor pays commercial rates, is not a temporary advantage. It deepens with every satellite launched. Every Starlink subscriber funds Starship development. Every Starship flight reduces the cost of the next batch of Starlink satellites. The flywheel is self-reinforcing and structurally inaccessible to any competitor starting from scratch. Fourth, the biggest opportunities are exactly where consensus says it cannot be done. Reusable rockets, impossible. Commercial crew, too risky. Low-orbit satellite internet, economically unviable. SpaceX executed all 3. The thing they were told was impossible was not winning market share from an incumbent. It was changing what humanity's access to the solar system costs. The story started on a 7.9-acre coral island, September 28, 2008, with 1 rocket and the last money the company had. The team that assembled that rocket from spare parts, repaired it mid-flight on a military transport, and watched it reach orbit. They are now preparing the largest public offering in financial history. Fate liked them that day, and they have been earning it every day since.
If you made it to the end, thank you. Elon Musk is a complicated figure. His governance practices, his political activities, the risks concentrated in a single founder, these are legitimate concerns that investors, regulators, and the public are right to examine. None of that disappears because SpaceX has an extraordinary engineering record. Both things can be true at the same time. But the engineering record is real. The Falcon 9 that launches every 2 days and lands itself, the satellite constellation connecting 10 million subscribers, the 30-story booster cut from the sky. The team that first proved itself on a coral island in the Pacific in September 2008, they built all of it. And they built it starting from nothing, with 1 rocket and the last money they had. If you value long-form stories about how iconic companies are really built, subscribe to Startup Origins. Every episode goes this deep. Share this with someone who loves space, or business history, or just a story about people who refused to go home. And tell us in the comments, what company should we cover next? Because behind every company that changed the world, there was a moment it almost didn't. Those moments are everything.